So, what is the price of power? Well, in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, the answer is pretty steep. We're talking blood, betrayal, and the absolute collapse of a republic. We're going to dive into the final tragic acts of this story, and believe me, it is a masterclass in how even the best intentions can go horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, this whole thing really boils down to one huge central question. You've got this group of Rome's most respected senators, right? And they come up with a plan to kill one single man, all to save their country from becoming a dictatorship. But what if, in doing that, they actually unleash something way worse? That's the tragic twist we're really going to get into.
All right, so let's set the scene here. We're in Rome, 44 BC, and the whole city is basically a ticking time bomb. You've got Julius Caesar, who's just come back from this massive military victory, and he's more powerful than anyone has ever been. And for a lot of the folks in the Senate, that power, it doesn't look like a good thing. Not at all. It looks like a dagger pointed straight at the heart of their republic.
And this fear, it all comes down to one thing. A bunch of senators, with this really clever guy Cassius leading the charge, they look at Caesar's ambition and they see a one-way ticket to tyranny. They're convinced he's going to declare himself king any day now. So in their minds, what they're planning isn't murder. No, it's a preemptive strike. They think they're saving the very soul of Rome.
And that fear pushes them right over the edge, to a point where there's just no turning back. Their solution? It's drastic, it's bloody, and it's all going down on a day that's going to go down in history, the Ides of March.
You know, the assassination itself is just chilling. It's so calculated. This isn't some chaotic street fight. It's a political execution, plain and simple. They surround Caesar right there in the Senate. They use a fake petition as a distraction, just to get him to lower his guard. And then they strike. Casco goes first, then the others join in, one by one, leading up to the final, most soul-crushing blow.
And then you get those famous, gut-wrenching words. Et tu, Brutus? You too, Brutus? I mean, wow. With just that one line, Shakespeare just lays the whole tragedy bare. Think about it. It's not the dozens of stab wounds that actually finish Caesar off. It's seeing his best friend, his trusted, noble friend Brutus, standing there with a dagger. That's the real killer blow. The betrayal.
So, Caesar is dead. Problem solved, right? Not even close. Killing him doesn't bring peace. It just creates this massive power vacuum. And suddenly, the fight for Rome isn't happening in the Senate anymore. It's spilled out into the public square. And this next war, it's not going to be fought with swords. It's going to be a war of words.
And this, right here, is where the real battle for Rome kicks off. First up, you have Brutus. He gives us very calm, very logical speech. He's all about honor, reason. He explains that they had to kill Caesar for the good of the Republic. And you know what? It works. He actually wins the crowd over. But then Mark Antony gets his turn. And he comes out with pure, raw emotion. He's dripping with sarcasm. He's masterfully playing the crowd. And he's got the ultimate prop, Caesar's bloody corpse. He doesn't just change their minds. He sets them on fire.
Antony's speech is like tossing a lit match into a barrel of gunpowder. That calm, reasonable crowd that Brutus was just talking to, gone. They transform into this raging, out-of-control mob, absolutely screaming for revenge. They start rioting through the streets, and it gets so crazy that they find this poor guy, Cinna the poet, and they tear him to pieces just because he has the same name as one of the conspirators, just for having the wrong name. It's absolute chaos.
So yeah, to say the conspirators' plan backfired is an understatement. It backfired spectacularly. They wanted to restore order and save the Republic, but what did they do? They unleashed total, utter chaos. And out of that chaos, a brand new and frankly much more ruthless power starts to take shape. And at the same time, the conspirators' own alliance, it's starting to crack under the pressure.
So, rising from the ashes of all this chaos, let me introduce you to the new guys in charge. You've got Caesar's right-hand man, Mark Antony, his young adopted son and heir, Octavius, and another general named Lepidus. They form this super powerful team called the Second Triumvirate. And their to-do list is pretty simple. Hunt down Caesar's killers and take complete control of Rome.
And their very first move tells you everything you need to know about how cold-blooded this new regime is. They sit down and they drop a hit list. And just look at this. They're so casual about it. They literally trade family members. Lepidus says, "Okay, you can kill my brother." And Antony's like, "Cool, then I'll mark my nephew for death." All just to get rid of anyone who might get in their way. This has stopped being about justice for Caesar. This is a purge, pure and simple.
So while their enemies are uniting with this ice-cold resolve, what about our so-called liberators of Rome? What are Brutus and Cassius up to? Well, they're in a tent, arguing, bickering like an old married couple. Brutus is calling Cassius corrupt. Cassius is calling Brutus a self-righteous hypocrite. I mean, that noble cause that brought them together, it's completely falling apart, crushed by paranoia and ego.
Okay, so the final showdown is getting closer and closer, and the sheer weight of what they've done is starting to take a serious toll, especially on Brutus. It's like the man he killed for the sake of Rome just won't stay dead, at least not in his own mind.
And then comes this incredibly haunting moment. The night before the big battle, Brutus gets a visitor, the ghost of Caesar. It's an amazing scene. Is it a real ghost? Or is it just Brutus's own guilt literally taking shape in front of him? Who knows? But either way, the message it delivers is absolutely chilling. It's a prophecy. You will see me again at Philippi. And just as the ghost promised, we arrive at Philippi. The battle is just chaos. It's a total mess, swinging back and forth. For a minute, it looks like Brutus might actually be winning his fight against Octavius. But over on another part of the battlefield, things are going terribly, terribly wrong for Cassius. And it all leads to one tragic mistake born right out of the fog of war.
All right, this is it, the final act. This is where all the ideals, all the ambitions, all the betrayals, everything comes due. For Brutus and Cassius, the bill for killing Caesar has arrived, and it's time to pay up.
And it all comes down to a single piece of bad information. It's heartbreaking, really. Cassius's servant mistakenly reports that his best friend has been captured by the enemy. Just like that, Cassius thinks it's all over, and in his despair, he takes his own life. Then, when Brutus finds his friend dead and sees that the battle is truly lost, he knows what he has to do. He chooses an honorable Roman death, running on his own sword rather than being captured.
And then you get this one last incredible twist. Who do you think delivers Brutus's eulogy? His mortal enemy, Mark Antony. And it's this moment that just shows you how complex this whole story is. Antony basically says, look, all the other conspirators, they did this out of pure jealousy. But Brutus was different. He genuinely believed he was doing the right thing for Rome. He was the noblest Roman of them all.
So, after all that, what are we supposed to take away from this epic tragedy? Well, there are a few big ones, for sure. We see how ambition and power can totally corrupt people. We see how words, rhetoric, can be way more dangerous than any weapon. And maybe most importantly, we see how even the best, most noble intentions can lead to absolute disaster. It's a brutal cycle. Political betrayal just leads to more and more violence.
And that leaves us with one last question to chew on, and it's a big one. Brutus, the idealist, tried to stop one man from becoming a dictator, but in doing so, he's the one who actually paved the way for the Roman Empire in a civil war that ripped his country to shreds. So what was he? A hero, a villain, or just a good man who made one single catastrophic mistake? Like everything else in this story, there's no easy answer.